Hello and welcome. My name is Vanessa Ortali. I am the founder of the Ladies Community and Heart and Mind Talks. Today, I have a really special interview for our online summit called The One. And the theme of this summit is one with purpose, one with self, and one with others. So I'm bringing a little bit of a different angle to this in this interview because I'm interviewing producer and DJ Shaun. So welcome, Shaun. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
I know you normally talk about music, and we're definitely going to be talking about more than just music today. So this will be a fun interview so that people get to know a different side of you, which you do sometimes show on social media. So I'm excited to share a little bit more about that deeper insight of what it's like to be you in your industry and how you got to where you are today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's try. Let's do it.
So tell me, how did you become a DJ and a producer?
Well, it all started with just a love for music from like a really young age. My parents had me in music school. I was playing piano at like 5. We moved into a neighborhood just to go to a better school that had a better music program. Like it was always a lot about music growing up. And like at like 12 or 13, I was like, for sure wanted to be like Kurt Cobain and be in a rock band and like sing. And I was playing drums at the time. And so I started my first band when I was in grade 8, I think, and started writing songs like right away. And I just always, it's all I ever really wanted to do was perform live. I think was kind of like the first kind of thing that was really like attractive about it to me was to just go out and like rock out. And then, it got really serious. Like in the middle of high school, like my band got a record deal, which was really lucky. Like worked really hard. I remember just hustling so hard. Like all my binders were like covered with like notes about like booking tours for the summer. When as soon as school was done, I was like, the band was in the van, we were touring. And I did that.
When you got a record deal in high school, what did that feel like for you?
What was it? Sorry, it would have been, I'm trying to get the timeline right because I'm 37 now, so it's a long time ago, but it was right near the end of high school. That we got our first record deal. And obviously it was super exciting. We were signed to the same label as Sum 41, who were blowing up at the time. And I remember thinking that this was it.
That was it.
And my parents and everyone were so excited. And we toured a lot. I drove back and forth across North America probably 30 times. We had this old school bus. We would just book our own tours and tour. We had building a fan base. It was so different back then because there was no internet. So you're just, the way to build fans was like go to people's towns and like play music for them.
Right.
Yeah, it's so different. And
how did they end up signing you? How did they find out about you? Your band?
We played I remember hustling in Vancouver to get gigs, and then we ended up on a gig that found a manager saw us, and then the manager signed us. She was like the manager of Matthew Good Band, and then she managed us, and then she introduced us to the label, and just one thing led to another thing, and it all had to do with just like perseverance and hustling and like getting in front of the right people back then, and so yeah, like I mean, then it was 15 years of that, of like being in bands and never quite being able to like make it. We were always close, and we always had a lot of like, there's always a lot of promise and there was a lot of letdowns, but like a lot of promise. Ended up in a second band that got signed to Gene Simmons from Kiss. Went on tour with Kiss. That was crazy. That band didn't quite get off the ground. And when all of that kind of like fell apart, actually, it was when I started producing electronic music, and I realized that was kind of like my calling, and that's how I became a DJ through that whole thing. There's so much more to the story than that, but that's like the Coles notes is, yeah, I kind of, to be honest, I started producing electronic music, not thinking that I would ever be a DJ. I had built up the skills to like record vocals and write songs, and a lot of DJs don't do that. They just produce beats. So when my bands ended, I started writing songs and singing on other people's dance records. And that's how I was introduced into electronic music. And I realized that like the best thing I could do was not just sing on the records, but also like produce the records myself. So I just like put my head down, and me and my old partner, we just started producing electronic music, and some of it started to like really react. And it was kind of like the first time things were reacting on a really organic level for me, where like we were making money for the first time ever. And like things were like, my life didn't look like it was just like dead end after dead end with music. And it just, internet culture and electronic music and everything just kind of like became one, and it turned into this career, which has been unbelievable for the last 4 years.
So cool. So was it an obvious transition of when you were supposed to essentially give up your other life in the band? And I ask this question because some people may be in the phase 1 and or in the phase 2 and not knowing when is it time to give up and when are things flowing naturally that you can go with.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I'll be totally honest. I when my band was ending, it was a very sad time because I had felt like that was to be the singer of a band. I felt like that had been my calling for my whole life. And when I was producing electronic music, I felt at first like it maybe wasn't my passion, but it was a means to an end. And that I could learn to love it. And as I got into it, I realized that I had much more of a passion for it than I thought I was going to. And I fell in love with it, actually, just by trying, because I knew I had the ability. So there was a clear choice there that I had to do something, because at the same time, I actually joined a multi-level marketing company. And I started doing that. And I was becoming really successful with that, but I didn't love it. And I remember there was a moment when the music took a backseat to it. But then something that I was doing with the music started succeeding, and I just dropped the other thing. And I was like, man, I need to do music. Like, this is what I have to do. And that was very clear for me. I remember I had a song that started succeeding in Europe, and they invited me to come sing it at a big festival in Europe. And this is the first time since the band had broken up that I was going to get to go do something in music and not be in sales for this multi-level marketing thing. And so I kind of like abandoned the multi-level marketing thing a bit, went to Europe, sang in this arena. I sang a song in Spain. It was this huge song. I couldn't believe how well it was doing. And I came home and I was just like, that's it. I'm going to DJ and do music. But there was a rocky transition because I still was hanging on to this idea. I was really stuck on this idea that I was supposed to be the singer of a band, and not realizing that there was other areas within my passion of music that I could succeed in. You know what I mean? And I had to kind of like figure it out, go through that transition.
Yeah. So then your life now, how much of it is music and producing and how much of it is business? Like, have you structured your life so that you're able to be creative most of the time? Or are you still thinking about how do I grow my community? How do I grow my presence and continue to let people know what I'm doing?
Yeah, well, I would say that it's like 50-50 because, especially in the genre that I'm in, I think in any music genre now, how you, like, your brand is as important as your music. Unfortunately, I didn't grow up in a culture that was like this. And I honestly kind of preferred when you could just be a little more anonymous and let your music speak for you. But it's hard with the amount of music that's being consumed and released on a weekly basis. It's really hard to get anyone to invest in you, like invest their ears in listening to your music, unless they're kind of invested in you as a person. And so there definitely is like a portion of my time that's spent, considering like how do I communicate on a personal level with people that are also listening to my music, and then connecting those two things so that, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that makes sense. Because I want it to be about music. I don't want to be like a surfer that like makes music. You know what I mean? I want to be a musician that makes music, producer that makes music. So I try to connect it all. And what happens is it ends up, I get a lot of like producers that become my fans because I do really push like that angle of just like, here's me in the studio, like, here's how I made this song, or here's what I'm doing. That's kind of my way of doing it.
Yeah, I think you have to find the right way or you'll hate it. And then you'll resist it. You won't want to do it.
Yeah, for me especially, and again, like, I hate using the age card because I think it is that I'm a little bit older. But yeah, it doesn't come super naturally.
You do go by Rave Dad as well.
Yeah. Sometimes I go as Rave Dad. Yeah, I'm like, listen, there's a bunch of DJs older than me, a bunch of huge DJs older than me, and then there's obviously a plethora of them younger than me. But with where I'm at, I didn't really grow up in like internet meme culture as much. So there was definitely a moment in time where I was like, oh man, I need to be like funnier online. Like all these guys that are succeeding, they're so funny, and they release such like clever social media content, and just like trying to do something that wasn't natural or even like considering it just made the whole thing so not fun anymore. And yeah, like more recently I've realized like I just really need to do what I love, because you really do burn out on trying to do something that's unnatural, regardless of how successful you are at it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, 100%.
I was really having a couple really, really hot years, but I didn't love what I was doing completely. And I've slowed down a bit, but I love what I'm doing more, so I'm happier.
Tell me a little bit more about that. Why weren't you as happy during those years?
Well, because I was doing, for a couple of years there, I was doing what I felt like I should be doing to succeed, to get more shows, to get more people to like what I was doing, to like follow. I was basically following trends a little bit too much to try to stay in. And listen, there's a lot of guys that do this, and I think they're more about the business than they are about the music. For me, it kind of killed me inside, because I realized at one point, I was like, I don't necessarily love the kind of music I'm sitting down to make every day, and I'm becoming less and less motivated to do it. And I had to figure out what my actual purpose for this whole thing was. You know what I mean? Because if it's just business, if you're just about the business, then yeah, the music can take a backseat. You can concentrate on the business and you can own that. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, it's always been about music. And so when I felt like the music was taking a backseat and I was just trying to like sell more tickets, get more views, get more likes, like just build it bigger that way, I kind of, it made me really unhappy. And I didn't like going on tour. I felt I'd come back from shows on the weekend. I wouldn't feel good for a couple of days. And I wasn't excited to go in the studio. And so I've recently kind of been changing that mindset a little bit and just being like, I have to just do music that I love, and see where that takes me. And it might not be as successful necessarily in the short term, but I think in the long term, I'll be happier.
Yeah, that also shows me though, if people are listening to this and they're in a career that may not feel right, it may not be the career, but your approach to it. And you may still be able to stay in that path, but just kind of change lanes a little bit and figure out how to do it for you.
Yeah, I think that's actually really, really, yeah, a good takeaway from that, because you don't have to abandon the whole career. I mean, there's probably a million different ways to do anything, really. It's hard for me to think about another way that applies.
What would you be doing if you weren't a producer and DJ?
I mean, I ask myself that all the time. I don't really have an answer for that.
Yeah.
It's been in me since so young. Anytime that I've gotten into a situation of sales, I've excelled at it, I feel like, but it's left me kind of not really that energized. So I think there's things I'd be good at maybe, but wouldn't really enjoy. I kind of just want, like, I'm the kind of person that just needs to kind of like be in control and do my own thing from day to day, and be my own boss. So it would have to be something where I could just kind of create.
Neat. I want to go back to the transition where you said over the past couple of years you've been transitioning into something that felt more organic to you. Was that transition, or did you question it? Because I remember there's a couple things that you've posted that are etched in my mind. And one of them was a video that you posted about not getting as many gigs and how you were feeling like a failure, and you wanted to share that so people didn't put you on a pedestal and make it seem like you didn't have those thoughts and feelings as well. Do you remember that?
I don't fully remember that. Sometimes I'm very impulsive with my feelings on the internet, because I see so much I'm all about like positivity and positive culture, but sometimes I feel like it makes kids feel like they can't make it unless they kill themselves to do it. You know what I mean? This like hustle culture, which I don't fully agree with. Like, it's not healthy to just be in the hustle so hard, just trying to get clout on the internet and get likes, and it doesn't feel like a healthy thing. So I just wanted people to know how I felt. I think that's maybe what I was talking about.
Yeah, I think so too.
But yeah, like I pulled back about a year and a half ago, because I realized that I wasn't really like loving the music that I was making, and chasing this thing like because everybody else was getting there and getting those gigs. And you know, that I think it's important to take everything that you see on the internet with a grain of salt, because I think what happens is a lot of people watch a lot of successful people because it's entertaining, And it's funny because I'll see successful people sometimes if they post a lot of really, really like, we sold out this show, we did this, and we're killing it, and we're here, and we're there. And then you meet them and you really get the real story. The real story is never what's really being posted about. And it just made me feel like I always need to realize that, because if I'm always just like watching everyone else being like, wow, how good are they doing? You know, like like, how do I get there? And then, but that's not real. Then you're chasing like a false goal. And I was doing that for sure. And I never wanted to make anyone feel like it wasn't hard for me. Like, I like telling the story of 15 years being where I like to you know, actually get the music out. Like, we had promised, but we never succeeded, and it was hard and painful. And I think that's the story no one tells enough. So yeah, I don't know. I know I just covered a lot of different things. But.
Yeah, no, that's totally what I'm talking about. And I think it's really important. What else would people not necessarily know that you struggle with in your
career? I mean, I don't always, things I struggle with in my career. For me, the biggest struggle is because I've made my whole life about music, and I've been such a determined person and been so driven by like all external factors just pushing me to like want to be great at this. I find myself on days where I don't really feel like making music, and I just don't know what else to do. And I think it's a occupational hazard of being too driven in one category that maybe, like, obviously I think it's right for me to be a musician, but you know, what people might not realize is that like, there's days when I wake up and I'm like, I don't feel like making music today. And then I spend the entire day like feeling guilty that I'm not working on music, and I don't do anything else. So I'll sit on the couch and watch Netflix, or I'll like take a walk, but I'm always thinking like, I should probably like finish that record. I should probably work on music, and not being able to be like, it's okay, I'm not going to work on music today. I'm going to have a me day and do nothing. I just don't, you know, I don't know, maybe I need more hobbies. I started working out a lot, which is actually, exercise has been a huge help in that category. It gets my mind off that a bit.
Yeah, I can actually totally relate to that, because when I'm not working and or doing something, I'm always thinking, should I be doing something? And I feel like for so long, my worth was tied to my accomplishments and what I was doing. So then trying to shift out of that, it's a huge, you just have to change the pattern, right?
I'm going to be honest. I haven't figured it out yet. I wish I had better advice. This is what I struggle with. So, you know, because I want it to be okay. I want to be okay taking a month off. It's not good for my career to do that, because everything's so hustle, got to get music out, got to do all these projects. But, you know, I think it's better to figure out a way to like be 100% driven and 100% passionate about your passion, but have a separate like life besides it and be able to live that life happily. I think if you can pull off that balance, it's really mentally healthy. And I think it's healthier for your passion to be able to do that. So that's my biggest goal, is to figure that out.
Because then myself. You can come back, right, with a fresh mind and potentially create something even better. You have, you know,
yes. And yeah, because also your time off of your thing, your passion and your career, was actually like therapeutic and not just stressful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You weren't just spending the whole time like thinking about that you should be doing that other thing. You know, it's a battle when you've spent your whole life so driven. Yeah, I'd love to read more about how people have dealt with that. You know?
Yeah, I'll send you a couple books how that helped me.
Great. Yeah. I'll read them.
What so on the flip side, things that you struggle with, but I want to know, when you're in flow and you're really feeling really good about your music and you're creating a lot, what does that feel like for you? What does flow and alignment feel like in your body?
It's pretty peaceful, and when I feel like I relate it to a sense of accomplishment. When I get going, I usually go for 10 hours. So like when I actually like get myself in the studio and I'm like onto something, I go till 3 a.m. And that sense of accomplishment is almost like a sense of peace for me, because it kind of relates to what we were just talking about, because I feel like I've done something. For some reason with me, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, but like productivity equals like peace of mind. It can be the littlest thing too. I get the same thing out of even like if I clean my house. I feel like I've done something, and that's like a good feeling, and I feel like at peace. And those demons of like do something, kind of go away. And so, and exercise can kind of do that too, calm them down. But yeah, it's like a sense of accomplishment, a sense of like productivity and moving forward, which I feel like it's essential to my flow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I don't know what it is. And maybe it's just part of being human, is that when we accomplish things, it makes us feel better. It also gives us more confidence and gives us extra energy to go into the next thing.
Yeah. Well, because my only really negative thoughts are the ones where I feel like I should be doing great things or doing something or getting that or doing that. So if I've done it and I've spent the day doing it, I usually, those thoughts go away. So then I'm at a sense of like peace, and I feel like I can, reward myself with some time off, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's totally healthy. I don't know, but that's just how it is for me.
I don't know either, because that's something that I struggle with too. What might people not know about you based on what you choose to show through your social media and or your, on stage persona?
What might people not know about me? Hmm. Well, I don't know. I grew up on the West Coast. I wanted to be a snowboarder. I always had this drive to like be an athlete, but I never had the discipline. Um, yeah, I have a bit of a lack of discipline for hard work in a way. I feel like, but especially with like sports, like I remember like I wanted to be a pro snowboarder, but like I wouldn't get up early and do it. Like I'd rather sleep than like, I'd rather get 8 hours sleep than like get up and train. And like, so like, I didn't have that kind of drive. I think people might see me as a really driven person, but I'm like driven to a point. Like I don't have to like get up at 5 a.m. and like crush into the gym before like the studio and like that discipline. Like I'm actually like, I wish I could get a little more disciplined in that way. But yeah, there's a lot of athletic things that I saw in my life growing up, maybe even as much as music at times.
Wow.
But that went away like in my early 20s when I started, like the band started taking off. Like I didn't have time for that stuff anymore. So
yeah,
I miss it. I miss being in the mountains. Like I grew up in the mountains.
Wow.
And I miss snowboarding and skiing and stuff. It was a big part of my family upbringing.
Being in nature.
Yeah, we grew up in Whistler, like half of Whistler. So like a lot of my life was spent up there with my family.
Because you travel so much, you find it hard to stay grounded and connected to the truth of who you are and nature and kind of what you just alluded to right now of how you grew up.
Yeah, well, I actually definitely, like when I was traveling more, it felt very disconnected. Even though I would have a lot of free time, like sitting in an airport, I just found, what's actually more, I think what disconnects me more from myself is my phone, than anything. And so I found when I was traveling, I was on my phone more. And I find the more that I'm on my phone, the more that I'm like watching Instagram and like killing time like that, the more addicted I get to my phone, and the less like I can feel my own like feelings in myself. So I don't even know if I blame traveling. I mean, traveling can be a great way to explore yourself, to go and like experience things like on a really like fast-paced level, which is, I think, awesome. But I mean, then you spend your time staring on your phone at what everyone else is doing, and it kind of like, it's a mixture of things. Do you know what I mean? So I actually think for me, the like getting off my phone and like getting back into like the world and nature is actually more important, and I can still travel and do that.
Yeah, I think it's so tough because, like you had mentioned before, your industry and so many others, we connect to our communities through our phones. So you want to connect to people, but then at the same time, it sometimes detaches you from yourself, which then you have nothing to give your community.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like the frequency of the screen or what it is, or just like, but it's very very hard on your brain. The phones. I really want. Yeah, I find that I actually, if I'm on my phone in the morning and go in the studio, if I was on my phone a lot, I have trouble getting started. But then once I'm in the studio making music for like a few hours and I haven't been on my phone, I don't care about that anymore. And I start to like ramp up into creative mode and my creativity like comes back. I think the phone's a bit of a creative suck. And like, I mean, I had a friend give me advice once that like, you should never wake up and look at your phone first thing. Oh, sorry. Still there?
Yep, still here.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I was just trying to swipe a message away. Yeah, and like, have you ever done that? Like, you wake up and just don't look at your phone until like after coffee, after eating. Like, yeah, it's apparently great. I haven't done it. I should do it.
Are there any routines that you make sure you do every day?
So now it's become exercise, and now we're in quarantine. And so I got a Peloton bike and I'm riding every single day. So now I've decided that, yeah, exercise is going to be like a 7 days a week thing. That's the only constant in my life is exercise. Yeah.
What kind of rider are you on your Peloton bike? Do you like scream out loud or sing to the music?
There's definitely some like, some screaming, not like loud, but just like, you know, like grunts. But I definitely like always dread it, like never want to do it, force myself to do it. Think I'm gonna like take it today. I'll just do it. I'll take it easy, and then I push myself like crazy.
Yeah.
And come off of it feeling amazing. So that's kind of like the everyday thing with that.
Something I do too. I kind of try to take the pressure off, and I go, you only have to do 5 minutes, or just, you know, do what you can. And then I always end up giving myself, you know, so much more energy than I thought I even had.
Yeah, you do it because you're like, oh, I'm not going to quit after 5 minutes of this thing. Yeah. I'm going to do, because with Peloton, you take like these classes. So you're just like, you don't want to quit. And then you're like looking at your yesterday's score and you're like, well, I can at least beat yesterday's score. And then you're trying. It's like, oh man, it's hard.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's good though.
As we finish up this interview, what is something that you want your community and your followers and your fans to, what do you want to leave them with? And what message do you want to tell them that you wish you could say to them more often?
Yeah, just be honest, you know, like with everything you do. I think that honesty is the most lasting impression that you can make on someone creatively. You know, try to do everything with like honesty and love. I think is what's really going to feel good for you and what people are going to connect with the most, if that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Honestly, even from the first time I met you, your energy and what you bring to the table and your authenticity is so inspiring, because you just put people at ease and really think about things, and you treat everyone with so much respect, and you always bring love to the conversation. So I really appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for thinking of me for this. I like this kind of stuff. Awesome. I don't talk about this stuff very often, except with my therapist.
Love it. That's good. I'm glad we have a mini session today.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. Well, you can go find Shaun Frank on Spotify. He just came out with some new music. You're always coming out with new stuff. And you can go follow him on Instagram, check out what he's up to, and give him a hi. And maybe go check him out at a live event once we are able to get live again.
Can't wait for that.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Shaun. I hope you have a great day, and happy quarantine.
Happy quarantine. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.